I'm excited to share some progress that we've made in the past year, and I noticed that we have a number of people on our call today that are new faces, new names. So I'm excited to welcome you, and I wanted to give just a little bit of background about who we are and provide some context for the tools that I'll be demonstrating later. The Software Excellence Alliance is an international network of professionals who share a passion for software development and a commitment to excellence in our practices. As an alliance, we've come together because we all have a history we've all been exposed to a particular set of high maturity, agile best practices that originally developed at Carnegie Mellon University. They've been used around the world to great success, and they've been proven to significantly increase team productivity, product quality, repeatability, the ability to meet commitments reliably. Very exciting collection of best practices, and one that we're excited to promote around the world. These best practices were originally created to enable and accelerate and empower software development, but they also provide significant exceptional results for teams doing knowledge work in varied disciplines. Organizations within our alliance have seen them used effectively from not just software, but also the development of hardware, embedded systems, art, video games, medical devices, avionics. The range is endless, but we've discovered that these high maturity best practices are broadly applicable across not just the software industry, but many other types of work. So I personally first encountered these practices as a member of a software project in the United States Air Force. It was a pretty remarkable experience for me. We had the opportunity to try these out when they were new and pilot some of these exceptional high maturity practices. I remember at the time in the retrospective for the project commenting that this was an amazing way to run a project, and why would anyone want to run one any other way? It helped us to deliver with great success and delight our customers and our managers and meet all of our goals. I could definitely see the potential for these best practices to really revolutionize the way that software is developed, change the world of software engineering. At the time I thought, these are so remarkable. What could I, as an individual single developer, do to help change the world, help promote the use of these practices? Because I have an open source background, I decided that the best way that I could help support the aspirational goal of changing the world of software was to start developing tools that could make these best practices easier to use and more broadly accessible to a large number of people. So the better part of my career ever since has been developing tools that make these best practices easy to use. The most notable of those tools is one called the Team Process Dashboard. It's a free and open source tool, been used by tens of thousands of developers worldwide, and it provides high maturity support for planning and managing project quality, schedule, and continual improvement. So some of the demonstrations you'll see today will be of the Process Dashboard. Moving along, within the Software Excellence Alliance, we realize that tools are a critical and important aspect of promoting the best practices that I was talking about. In 2019, we put together a working group to look into this. The members of this working group collaborate to make these high maturity agile behaviors more broadly accessible to a larger number of teams, both software teams and non-software teams, high maturity and also mainstream agile teams. And we seek to continually improve the state of the practice. So in 2019, we spent some time surveying teams to better understand the friction points that they were experiencing with their current tool set, and also the most urgent unmet needs that their tools were not providing. From that survey, the opportunities we identified included better long-term planning support for agile teams, better support for non-software teams within the high maturity community, and also integrations between various tools that seemed to be siloed at the time. In 2019, we put together this roadmap for 2020, which we've been working our way through to great success. Part of this roadmap has been the identification of sponsors that can act as product owners for the software that we're developing and also provide financial support. And so I'd like to take a moment to recognize and express my gratitude to Jeff Schwab and the others within the organization at NavAir who have provided a significant amount of funding for several of the features that you'll be seeing today. So I want to thank them again for that. So as we begin our work down this roadmap, we realized that there were several different target communities that we wanted to support. We wanted to provide support within the high maturity community, teams that had been using the process dashboard for years to great success, when we continue to provide great support for those teams. Of course, we also want to reach out to teams that aren't using the process dashboard, that are using mainstream Agile tools predominantly. A couple of the larger players are Jira and Azure DevOps. And then, of course, there were teams that seek to use both of those tools. And so part of our strategy was to identify ways to use these tools together so that teams could experience synergy through integration. So these three large categories: functionality that we're offering that's focusing on the process dashboard, functionality that helps teams not using the dashboard, and functionality that uses both, are three different areas I'll be talking about today. In 2020, these are some of the big ticket items that we finished that I'm excited to demonstrate for you today. And as I mentioned, I'm going to be going through these things based on their target audience. The first one that I'm going to be looking at is the tools that we've developed that become useful and powerful for Agile teams throughout the industry that don't necessarily come from a high maturity background. The one that I'm going to highlight today is the Planning Accelerator, also known as the standalone WBS Editor. Before I dive into the demonstration, though, I'm going to invite Alan Willett to talk a little bit about his experiences with teams that he's coached and what led to the inspiration behind the Planning Accelerator.
Hi, David. Thank you. So, as most of you know, but not everybody, I have been consulting with teams since I started with the SCI way back in the late 1990s, an independent consultant. So I've coached teams and planning sessions around the world, from India, South Africa, Ireland, England, the United States, a few hundred times. And a lot of times we haven't had the benefit of the process dashboard. We've been using DevOps, we've been using TFS, we've been using Jira, and it's really been a nightmare a lot of times to do really big room planning with a lot of people, because we end up using Excel spreadsheets, because Jira and Azure DevOps, etc., just don't have that ability to do quick calculations, to do load balancing, and all the other features that the process dashboard does. So we've been forced to use Excel spreadsheets, and we end up with like 100 of them. It's pretty a mess. So I am so delighted that David has developed the Planning Accelerator, the standalone WBS editor. I've already had a preview of it. I've actually got to touch and play with it. It will make these events go from multiple days. It probably will save 50 people one day just by using this tool alone, and I could be underestimating the impact of this. So David will tell you more about it, but I just want to be a strong advocate that thank you, David, for doing this. And also, David, you know I have a few feature requests already.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about.
So that's when you know that you got something good. If you start to use it and you say to David, yeah, but I want this too, you know you got something. He's got something here. David, back to you.
All right, great. Thanks, Alan. So at this point, I'm going to stop with the slides, and I'm going to, and I'm going to just switch over to demonstration mode. So the Planning Accelerator is a standalone application. I'm just going to open it here real quick. And for the people in our community, they'll immediately recognize this user interface as one that has been traditionally a part of the process dashboard's high maturity planning tools. We've referred to it as the Work Breakdown Structure Editor, or WBS Editor. So the thing that I would like to point out is that just for the benefit of the people in our community, the thing that makes this different is that we've taken the WBS Editor, which has provided great long-term planning and capacity planning, release planning support within the dashboard, and we've decoupled it so that it can be used outside of the process dashboard environment. So within the process dashboard environment, the plans that you create in this editor would be saved to the process dashboard database. When this is used as the Planning Accelerator or standalone WBS editor, it's saving the data to and from plain files. So you have the opportunity of, for example, exploring and looking at different plans and saving them as plain files on your hard drive and sharing them with others, including others on your team or managers or stakeholders. So let's see, having the opportunity, for example, to open and take a look at different plans. So so let's see. Just for those who aren't familiar with the WBS editor, I'm just going to give maybe a quick overview of some of the items that make it different from planning tools that you may have used in the past. One of the things that makes it different, as Alan mentioned, from, for example, web-based planning tools such as Azure DevOps or Jira, is that the user interface for this has been extremely optimized for the rapid development of and creation of detailed evidence-based plans. So you can very quickly add, create, modify, make significant changes to the structure of your project, etc., and explore and see what the differences are that that has on your end goal. In the case of the so let's see, in the case of the hierarchical planning, creating and putting together an outline for your project, understanding the components that are going to be created, it's as easy as editing an outline in PowerPoint, etc., copy paste, etc. In support of rapid planning, there are several different tools that this offers. One of them is what I would refer to as estimation tables. This is, as you might, one way of imagining this from the standpoint of, for Agile teams that are familiar with planning poker, is that this gives you the opportunity to, as an example, put together several different planning poker decks that might describe different types of work. So this is, as an example, are a couple of different planning poker decks that I've put together that we might use to understand how much time and how large the different components that we create are. Here I've created separate estimating tables for new development bug fixes, but there could be as many of these as we want. We could have items in here for training, documentation, which might have things like pages, and we might say, for example, that an average training document was maybe 4 pages long. It took us 20 hours to create. And just with a little bit of information we've got that we've put in so far, we've already got a ready-to-go planning poker deck. Back in the project, we can start applying things like start using these decks to understand the different types of work that we might be producing. So you can see that we quickly start to put together an understanding of the size of the work. It makes it easy to collaborate in a team and start seeing how big of a pile of work is necessary. Now, along with this is a concept where we can take a look at the list of individuals who are on our team, understand what their capacity is. In this case, I'm looking at a team. We have somebody who's not going to be joining our team until after the first of the year. A lot of the people in the team are going to be off for the week of Christmas and perhaps the week after. So we can put this sort of information in, and based on that, the capacity information that we put together here for our team and the sizes of the work that we've estimated so far, we can start getting an estimation of how long it's going to take this project to complete. Just for purposes of getting some interesting data here, I'm going to uh, create maybe a few more components and subcomponents. And you can already see that as we start estimating these things, it's taking a look at the total amount of work that we have, and I've identified certain sprints, milestones or sprints that are that our team is looking at. We can already see that we're like halfway with the work that I've planned so far. We're halfway into a third sprint. I can also be assigning things to individual sprints and seeing how much is going to fit. So for example, by looking at these first three components, I can already see that those first three components aren't going to fit in sprint 1. And I could basically take a look and start comparing, basically using the information about the capacity of the team and the size of the work to understand what might fit in various sprints, etc. Of course, we can divide things into parts where we might be working on things in different sprints and seeing if we can get everything to fit within the sprints that we're committing to our customers. This is just a really, really high level. Obviously, a real project plan is going to have a lot more detail than this, but I just want to kind of give you an idea of how this might work. In addition, as we start looking at, if we start thinking about the individuals who might be doing some of this different work, then we can also get an idea of, let's see, we start assigning things to individuals. We can see whether or not the work is going to, like a particular individual might be a long pole in the tent and might not finish before other people on the team. And so getting a visualization of this is also very helpful. So as we move things around, for example, we can see what effect it's going to have on individuals, on when a particular individual might be finishing their work for a particular sprint, whether they'll finish in time, whether or not we've got more work than the team can handle, et cetera. In addition to the estimation tables that your team can build, the WBS also gives access to what it calls workflows, but this could, Agile teams often call this anything from recipes to definitions of done. So here, for example, might be the different things that belong to the definition of done for a particular Agile team, for developing a new feature, or maybe for working on a bug fix, or maybe for addressing technical debt. And so once again, you can create as many of these as you like. And as a team, you might be going in and saying, well, component C is a new feature. Component A and B are also new features. Component D is technical debt. And what I'd like to just point out is that it's quickly created a detailed plan for the work based on the overall estimates and based on the definition of done that we've created. You can, in situations like this, we can also start taking a look at who might be collaborating with us on particular pieces of work. So, but the bottom line is that with just a few keystrokes, we put together a pretty detailed plan. There's a lot more functionality in here that I really don't have time to go into today, but the opportunity to take a look at work, put together a detailed plan very quickly, and then also explore trade-offs is very powerful. Trade-offs are another thing I think that really sets this apart, one of the challenges that people will be familiar with in tools like, say, Jira or Azure DevOps, once you start creating a plan, if somebody comes to you and says, well, what would happen if we moved this to sprint 3? What would happen if we brought this person on? And it's really difficult to answer questions like that within your project management tool without actually making the changes, which in a way kind of destroy your current plan. So trying to explore what-if scenarios is a real challenge. This makes that very easy. You can look at what-if scenarios, and until you actually save these changes, they don't affect the file on the hard drive. But you could also save a copy, save as, and have multiple different, for example, different plans that you're exploring to try to determine which one meets your customer's needs better. So the ability to do what-if scenarios is, I think, also a pretty powerful feature. So let's see, just want to see if there's anything else I wanted to touch on in here. In addition to saving to Excel, this standalone planning accelerator can also export to CSV for use with tools like Microsoft Project, and also can save all the data to Excel. So at the moment, those are the options that we have in terms of data export, saving this basically as a file to the hard drive, exporting to Excel or Microsoft Project. Our next goal is going to be to enable this to be hooked directly to a mainstream ALM tool like Jira or Azure DevOps, so that when we open, we're actually looking at the plan that came from our backlog, and when we save, we're actually saving changes to the backlog. So that's going to be something that we're going to be working on in 2021, and that's something we're very excited about as well. All right. So just, I think before I go too much further, let's see. No, I think I'll go ahead and press on. Are there any? Let's see.
Question, David?
Yes. Any question?
Yeah, this is Jeff Schwab. Does the CSV export actually work in MS Project nowadays?
That's a great question. I'd be glad to work with you offline. From the standpoint of Microsoft Project, it does. There are some like configuration settings you need to do in order to successfully import the file, but from the standpoint of using CSV can be also imported, I believe, by some other applications, like Jira, for example, also does have CSV export for import, and so it is an option there. You may have to massage the data to make it immediately applicable to a particular tool that you want to import it into, but ultimately our goal is to make it where it can save directly to those tools.
Okay, good. We can talk more about that later, but that's a great feature for when we have to talk to our sponsors sometimes, to take a high-level plan and show it to them with the decal behind it.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. I want to, moving on from the planning accelerator, I'm just going to take a look at some of the items that have been added to the process dashboard application. And so I'm going to be talking about new features in the process dashboard for process customization, something that we've added called personal projects, and then also something called cloud-based data storage. So just want to talk really quickly about the enhancements that we've made in the WBS Editor for process customization. People who have been using the process dashboard for some time will be very familiar once again with the WBS Editor. And one of the things that has been a goal that we've heard, or request that we've had from teams a number of times, is to make it more, to enhance the WBS Editor so that it can support work of a variety of disciplines. Obviously, the process dashboard and these high maturity best practices started from a software engineering background. And so from the standpoint of a software engineering background, there were certain aspects of this user interface that were highly tailored to software. So we want the opportunity to make sure that we can retailor those aspects of the interface to do work that's not software related. One of the biggest things we've added this year is custom size metrics. So for example, you can see a list of size metrics here, but I have the opportunity of going in and saying, well, I'm really not interested in using this size metric, and I'd actually like to use a new one called kumquats. No, the let's see, PCBs. Maybe we're doing hardware development, or we might have something in terms of database routines. We're doing DBA work, and the ability to create new custom size metrics on the fly and use these gives us the ability to support non-software work significantly better. And then, of course, for software teams who want to take their planning, tracking, and analysis to a new level and new types of, to describe new types of work, this is also a very powerful feature too. So, and it's one that we're very excited about. So, moving right along, one of the other aspects in terms of the ability to adapt this to types of work that aren't software related, we've also introduced the opportunity for projects to be based on streamlined metrics frameworks. People who've been using the process dashboard for a long time will be familiar that when you click on the nodes in the work breakdown structure, you can give them a different type, and they'll be within a software-specific framework like the team software process, which a lot of people might use. You'll be familiar that there were like maybe 20 different types of tasks to choose from. Those 20 different types of tasks don't equally apply to work that's not software related. So we have the opportunity now to start looking at simplified frameworks that can be used for many different types of work. This is one example of that. You can see that we've boiled this down to the essence of the different categories of tasks that apply to different types of cost of quality. So, all right. So let's see. In addition, so those are the custom, the improved support that we provided for process customization. One of the other items that I'd like to highlight that we're also very excited about is something called personal projects. People have been using the process dashboard for a while, will be familiar with the support that it provides for teams, for a team to come together and use the WBS editor to create a detailed team plan, etc. I'm excited to announce that we've made this available to individuals too. So for example, as you're working in the process dashboard, we've given you the opportunity as an individual to say that I want to create a new project. And I'm just going to show you how quick and easy this is. So as an individual, I can type my name. And with that little amount of work, I now have a project that I can work on just as an individual, whether or not my team members are using high maturity practices. I now have the ability as an individual to access a work breakdown structure editor where I can create my own workflows. I can create my own size metrics. I can create my own estimation tables, etc. And I can put together a plan to plan and track my own work, manage the quality of my own work, and manage my commitments to my team and to managers and stakeholders. For people for those that are joining us that aren't familiar with the process dashboard, just kind of demonstrate some of the capabilities that this sort of thing brings. It makes it so that, as an example, as an individual, using this sort of software, this sort of functionality, I have the opportunity to take a look at my own personal progress and track it against my plan, see when I might be projected to finish, how much effort it's going to require, the the tasks that I'm working on. There's a variety of charts and analyses here that provide a lot of power. So these charts and analyses have always been around for teams working on team projects. Now all of these capabilities are here for individuals too. And in addition to things like tracking cost and schedule, we also have the ability to take a look at the workflows we've defined. So for example, we had a new feature workflow that we were looking at. As I use that new feature workflow in my different projects and capture actual data, then this tool gives a great deal of insight into how my process is working for me, how I can improve, things that I can do to become more productive, and things that I can do to improve the quality of the work that I'm producing, find problems in the individual components, and opportunities to make future components better. So there's a tremendous amount of functionality here. All of this is now available not just to teams, but also to individuals. Now, in the context of using this for individuals, it gives us, there are at least 3 different use cases that I'd like to call out to invite people to think about. One of the use cases would be the exceptional engineer, an individual within an organization who really wants to take their work to the next level. Their team members might not be using high maturity practices, but as an exceptional engineer, they have a passion to improve the quality of their work. These personal projects support that type of individual extremely well. Of course, if you are on a team and you are working with a group of other people and you're all collaborating on high maturity work on a team project, these personal projects are also still available to you if you want to use these high maturity behaviors to plan and track the work that you do that isn't necessarily a part of your team project. So as an individual, in addition to the team projects that I might be matrixed across, there might be other things that I'm working on, and I can use this functionality to plan and track my individual work. And then a third aspect that I'd like to just invite people within our community to consider is that there's been a lot of talk within the community about 21st century PSP training courses, the idea of taking these high maturity behaviors and introducing them to people in new and incremental ways other than the training that we used in the past. And also the ability to take these high maturity practices and introduce them to people who aren't necessarily doing software. The training courses that we've had in the past were very tightly coupled to software using processes like PSP 2.1. And with the functionality that I just showed you with personal projects, if you're teaching a class, for example, to people who aren't using software, aren't writing software, it's now, this personal project now makes it very easy for you as an instructor to introduce them to high maturity, allow them to create their own workflows that might not have anything to do with software, allow them to plan and track their work using those workflows and earn value, and then to be able to look and analyze their data trends as they improve their process. All of this, of course, without necessarily any tight coupling to PSP 2.1 software or to the way that we taught these things in the past. Okay, so I'm just going to keep moving forward because I've got a few other things I wanted to cover. One of the other items that I wanted to mention was that we've made available is something I guess I would call the Process Dashboard Enterprise Server, which is cloud-based storage. This has been a product that's been around for a while, but the adoption has really picked up this year. And I have also created basically a cloud-based offering where you can enroll in this as a service, using software as a service. So I just wanted to kind of demonstrate how this works with the Process Dashboard Enterprise Server. We might, for example, have the server set up within your organization. Individuals can log in, and it's just a matter of logging in and clicking on a link in their web browser. And let's see. And I've got something opening up on another screen. Let me move it over in just a moment here.
David,
and yes.
Question. So is the enterprise server, is that what allows you to sort of use your dashboard from two different locations, like to say you have a laptop and a desktop?
Yes, that's correct. So with the enterprise server, an individual can open their dashboard from multiple different locations because the data is being stored in the cloud. Their personal data or the team data is being stored in the cloud. So here's an example. I've just clicked on the link in the web browser, and it's opened up a personal dashboard for this demo user. Let's see. It's also very simple for organizations that have been using the process dashboard in the past. I just wanted to demonstrate how easy it makes it to create a new team dashboard. So with those clicks, I've just created a team dashboard. I could then say that certain individuals should be allowed access to that dashboard. And so when these individuals log in, they will now see this team dashboard as an option on their homepage that they can then click and open. And so it makes collaboration a lot easier. It makes it easier to share data with coaches or with stakeholders. And it also makes it, so this is the dashboard that I just created. So you can see how it simplifies deployment. It also provides the opportunity for an administrator to push out new versions of the dashboard software without requiring individuals to manually run an installer. And then one of the other features that's also pretty useful is that individual dashboards, the cloud is keeping the complete history of how data has changed over time. So you have the opportunity, for example, to open your team dashboard and look and see what the data looked like, say, a month ago, if you forgot to save a backup. You're just trying to look and see what, for example, what the plan looked like at the end of the launch.
Or if you forgot to baseline and you want to see how much your plan has grown, for instance, right?
Exactly. So this enterprise server is, as I mentioned, one of the things that's significant this year is that it's now available as a cloud-based offering for people that don't necessarily want to be installing it within their own organization, would like just a pay-as-they-go option. Okay, moving right along. Let's see, there is, I'm going to close that. There's one other item that I'd like to demonstrate, and this is also something that I'm very, very excited about. It's integration that we built between the process dashboard and ALM tools for Jira and Azure DevOps. So I'm just going to demonstrate this really quickly. Once again, this functionality is something that is provided for teams that are using both tools. So a team that is using the process dashboard and is using either Azure or Jira. So if a team is using both, this is the functionality that we've created. We have an opportunity to basically tie a process dashboard project to a Jira or Azure DevOps project. I'm going to show you as an example here. This is a project that I have in Jira. You can see that it has a number of different stories, defects, etc. in my backlog. And I've tied this this Jira project to a process dashboard project. So what happens is that all of those items from my Jira backlog are basically getting pulled into the work breakdown structure. I can take some of these out and say that they are things that I want to work on as part of the current iteration. I can use my proxies like proxy tables that we had talked about in the earlier item to create better time estimates for these things. And so you get an idea. We have the opportunity basically to use these high maturity planning tools against the items that came from Jira. And then of course I can also take these items. I'm just going to add some. You can also take these items and apply high maturity workflows to these. So for example, if I say all of these are new features, then I've just created a detailed plan for all of these items that came from Jira that I'll be able to plan and track against this detailed plan in the dashboard. Now, the exciting thing is that as I make changes here and as I collect data, this information flows back into Jira. So for example, this is the a story in Jira. I can open that story in my web browser as I make changes in the process dashboard. So for example, if I were to modify time estimates in the process dashboard, those time estimates will end up trickling back to Jira. And similarly, if I would edit a time estimate in Jira, it'll trickle back into the process dashboard. As I collect actual data against these projects, they trickle back and forth too. And in addition, I have the opportunity of, for example, creating new, when I'm in the work breakdown structure editor here, I have the opportunity of creating, for example, a new Jira story. And when I save this change, then it ends up getting pushed back into my Jira backlog as a new item. So you can see it's just created this item that I just indicated. It's just created an entry for it in Jira just by saving changes to WBS. So this once again is another item that we're very excited about and excited for the possibilities for these tools to work together. Gives us the opportunity to use both tools where they have the most strengths. We can be using the Jira view when we're taking a look at managing our backlog, and then when we want to push things down a level further and use high maturity techniques to plan and track our work, we have the opportunity to do that part in the dashboard, and the data stays synchronized between the two. Okay, so I'm going to pull these slides back up again, since we're getting close to the end here, and talk about the next steps for 2021. We're excited about building on what we've finished so far this year and planning on increasing the support that we're providing. One of the main goals that we'd like to really focus on in 2021 is to be taking the high maturity process support that we've all enjoyed in the process dashboard and rehosting it into plugins that we could put in the Jira or Azure DevOps Marketplace to provide high maturity support, so that teams using Jira or Azure DevOps can install these plugins and gain high maturity support for planning, tracking, forecasting, process automation, and quality management without having to leave their tool. In the meantime, we are still interested in tightening and improving the integration that I just showed you between the dashboard and Jira Azure DevOps. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at making the planning accelerator basically as a very capable planning front end that can read from and save back to Jira or Azure. And of course, we have a large user community that enjoys the support they get from the process dashboard, and we'll be continuing to support and enhance the process dashboard so that we can continually improve the state of the practice for high maturity software development. So I just wanted to also welcome individuals, teams, and organizations that are excited about this and excited about collaborating as we pursue those goals for 2021. That includes sharing your team's needs, pain points, and priorities, and being a part of steering the direction of where this functionality should go next. We'd like beta testers that can use this functionality on real-world projects and provide feedback on how we can make it better. If there are people who are interested in helping with development, also very welcome. And of course, as I mentioned before, all of the stuff that you see today has only been possible because of the generous financial support from organizations. I want to thank Nagar again for helping make a lot of this possible, and I definitely welcome other teams and organizations, both within our community and new to our community, that would be interested in being a part of supporting the development of new functionality.
I've provided my email address here. If you'd like more information about anything you've seen today, if you'd like access to some of the functionality I've demonstrated, or you'd like to be a beta tester, feel free to contact me at this email address. I'm very much interested in working with organizations that are as excited about high maturity as we are, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again.